Yes, yes, bloody yes. It's time to start the stream.
I've been looking forward to this.
All right, everybody. Hello, welcome back. Hope you're doing good. I'm Jamie, and we are going to talk about the Mandalorian chapter. What are we at now? 23, right? The Spies. We got one chapter to go in this season. It's frightening how time flies when you're watching Star Wars. Now, before we get going, let me do a few hello. There's first of all to Peter, who I can see was first in the chat. Daniel Spartan is here as well, or was here. Glenn is here, the geeky hippie. I hope you're all doing well. I can see Ant is here as well, as is Gaz Nottingham. And I did see a few other names. Mr. Matthew Stokes, who I met in the flesh, in the real world, just a couple of days, and it was very nice. Very nice flesh, Matthew, you got there. Wonderful to be in your real world presence. I can see Peter is still here. Also, if you're watching on the replay, aka in the future, hello to you as well. Hope you're doing good. Drop us a comment, and all of you live in the present or in the future, hit the like button, right? Because apparently it does good YouTube stuff. Who else is here? Chris from Explaining Computers is in the house. Hope you're doing well, Chris. Great to see you. I know you missed a couple of the streams. Didn't do one last week, actually, because of travel. Clays is here as well. Hey, Clays. Hope you're good, my friend. And Power Droid Girl is here as well, as is just lolling for the hell of it. And Jane Flakes is here too, as is Caleb. Hope you're all doing wonderful. David, hope you're good, man. And I hope you had a good time at our celebration. We didn't get to cross paths. Kind of difficult, right? There's a lot of people there and a lot of things to do, especially if you're going to panels and things like that. In fact, I pretty much only saw, apart from people I was working with, in terms of people I knew who were like there, I only saw a handful of people. Matthew Stokes being one of them, Ken Knapsack and Joseph Scrimshaw. I met Alex Damon and Molly in the flesh for the first time, and Luke and Matt from Star Wars Sessions. But there was a lot of people I wanted to bump into. Kind of almost impossible to organize things as well in the convention center because of networks. And I was working, as some of you know, so I had a pretty full-on schedule. But you know what? Again, I think everybody there, working or not, has a full-on schedule because there's a lot going on. My big bro went with my nephew. And his wife, not the nephew's wife, the nephew's like 7, my brother's wife. And yeah, they think they saw about 15% of it in the one day they went. A lot of stuff going on. Brian the Geek is here as well. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope all's good on your channel too. Brian covers lots of pop culture, Star Wars stuff. Brad is here. See, you used to be the Supreme Leader. Am I the Supreme Leader now? Because you were Supreme Leader, Brad. Brad Snoke back in the day. So now you don't have Snoke in the name. I'm like, well, are you still our Supreme Leader? Or are you now saying I am? I think you are, right? You'll always be my Supreme Leader. Where are we? Gaz Nottingham says, congratulations and job well done. To me, a celebration. Thank you. Yeah, there was, man. There was, David. I agree. A lot of people, but hey, that is kind of what you expect, I suppose, from this kind of thing. Aldi, you caught me on stage. Cool, man. Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of out and about a lot doing packages, field reports. And yeah, so I wasn't around or on the stage too much because I was always away filming, but was there quite a lot on the final day, the Monday, right? But I'm going to do a video anyway about celebration, maybe next week, and talk more about it then. But it was my voice is still kind of shot. It was a great experience, running on pure adrenaline, having got in from Mexico City, pretty jet lagged. And yeah, I don't know, when I've done these kind of jobs in the past, the same things happened. Like I said, you're running on adrenaline and you just don't sleep, to be honest. but you keep going, and then you get ill at the end. So that'll probably be me in the next day or two. Hi, Gaz and Fluffy. Hope you're doing good. I did it in 2016 when it was last in Europe, and came from that, really, to be honest. And yeah, I'm hired as a host, not as someone who has a Star Wars YouTube channel. Because yeah, it's something I've done for many years, professionally. So yeah, so it started with that, being a host, also British for when it's in the UK, and also being a Star Wars fan, which the channel does demonstrate, I guess. Right, everybody, let's get into our chat about the latest episode of The Mandalorian, which I know some of you, maybe in the chat, got to see at Celebration. So yeah, I have. I still do. I'm freelance, and if I could open this drawer. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Somewhere my pass is next to me, my BBC ID. Yeah, I'm freelance these days, but yeah, I've been on the books in some kind of way with the BBC for about 15 years now or something. But yeah, very, very much freelance these days and not doing too much kind of by choice, to be honest. Sort of over a lot of it. But hey, I'll always be back. Still got my email address and stuff. So yeah, now I'm back in the UK, which I will be for at least the summer. I might start pitching some new stuff for them. But anyway, let's talk about The Mandalorian chapter 23. And I will talk about Celebration. I'm going to do a video. If anyone has any questions, drop me a message and I'll try and cover them in the video. But yeah, this episode, right? So talking recently with Chad and Ant and a few others about some of the hype towards this episode that was coming out of Celebration. And I think I probably went in with expectations too high because of that. And if you've been to, any kind of fan event where they're premiering something, or actually a premiere, it's a different atmosphere. I've done that video about when I won a competition as a student to go to what at the time was the final world premiere for a Star Wars film, Revenge of the Sith. And you're kind of going in and coming out with a different energy because it's such a unique environment. Even though you're in a cinema, you're in a theater, it's still a unique environment. And this was a great episode of The Mandalorian. But yeah, I think those who were seeing it at Celebration, they were seeing it before anybody else, in the world, and people would have been cheering, and the atmosphere would have been fantastic. So I think sometimes when you see reactions to these sort of screenings, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. And it was a fantastic episode, but I probably came out slightly disappointed still, but that was purely based on some of the stuff I was reading online. I didn't like 22, by the way, chapter 22. Least favorite of the season. Don't hate it. I'd give it a 6 maybe, which is above average, as we talked about before. 5 is average. But yeah, I really did love this this episode, chapter 23, a return to form, if you like. So yeah, I haven't really done too many notes, and I'm not going to go through the actual sort of narrative of the episode because I actually fell asleep during it, which was nothing to do with the episode itself. That's more to do with my body at the moment, recovering from jet lag and some pretty long, intense, but brilliant days at Celebration. And then traveling back to see my family, my mom and dogs and other family members, which is where I am now. And for those interested, I am moving back to London for the summer from May 1st. Anyway, so yeah, I kind of fell asleep and then rewatched it very groggy, sleepy head. So yeah, I kind of just made some bullet points about things that I liked, and I definitely liked some of the humor in this episode. We had Grogu controlling IG 11 or 12 now, right? And using his speech to say, well, yes or no, a lot, and that was fun. I like that. It did not get annoying, and I thought it might. And it's just nice to get a bit of Grogu comedy again, aside from all I can think about is the chair spinning in this season. I miss those days gone by of little G messing with wires or the ball handle thing aboard the Razor Crest, the joystick thing. Um, but while the IG thing is funny, crazy, and cute, because put Grogu in anything, including IG 11, 12, and it will be cute. It kind of like thematically makes sense as well. Because IG once protected the child. He also once tried to kill him, but let's forget that. And now Grogu is at the controls, and Din has to accept he's got to let him go. He's got to let him have some freedom, that he is a grown up now, or at least growing up. But we see those parental concerns of Din coming out. And now it's Din's turn to be rescued in a season finale, while it was Grogu last time. I also loved seeing Charles Baker, aka Skinny Pete, as a Mandalorian. And if we don't get Badger in the next episode, then cancel the entire series. I will be out. And little name drop here. I actually know Charles a little bit, and I know he's a huge Star Wars fan. So, yeah, I can imagine this must have, he's an actor. It's a job, but this must have meant so much more to him than it just being another job. Did his character die? I can't remember. This would have been sleepy mode time, but yeah, I'm assuming if he didn't, we'll see him again in the next episode, because it definitely feels like a two-parter, and it's the same director, isn't it? As well, I think for the second episode. Have we had that yet in the Mandalorian, back-to-back episodes by the same director? Anyway, I think for many, this penultimate episode of season 3 will feel most like season 2, and perhaps the season 3 they were hoping for, if you know what I mean. We got the big bad Moff Gideon in the flesh. In what was that? Another generation Dark Trooper suit. More sequel trilogy ties. A link to the upcoming Ahsoka series with the Thrawn tease discussion, not just a tease. And it was also, it was centered around the main characters. We learned more about Bo's journey, the planet Mandalore itself, and its ties to the aforementioned current big bad. Don't think he's going to be the big bad for too much longer. And I really enjoyed seeing Gideon with the Shadow Council, who are all like loyal to the Empire and working under the radar of the New Republic. That was really interesting, and also explained, Gideon's intentions and Dr. Pershing's fate. Some might say, why did we have to spend a whole episode with Dr. Pershing still? I still really enjoyed that episode. It's actually, even though you could completely remove it from this series and it would more or less still make sense. I loved it. I think that was a really strong episode. But yeah, it does connect now to why Pershing was put under the mind flare, whether it was a mind flare or not. And something that was pointed out to me by Anders Lay, and I'm sure this has been doing the rounds online, so I'm probably repeating information for you. But Anders, like on many occasions, brought this to my attention, at least first. So we know about General Hux, played by Domhnall Gleeson, but we have the character's dad, Brendel Hux, as part of the Shadow Council, who's played by Brian Gleeson. And the cool thing is that obviously they have their fictional relationship there, but they have a real world relationship, as the surname has probably suggested, because Brian is the brother of Domhnall. So that's pretty cool. The First Order is definitely a brewing, people. What else? Spoilers, of course. Bit late for that, but you've probably noticed. The death of Paz Vizsla didn't really do it for me, and I like the character. I don't know if it was the way it was shot. I think Chad mentioned earlier that it was kind of quite predictable, but yeah, maybe a combination of those contributed to me not really feeling it, not getting the feels. But I do like the character. So yeah, this episode had a lot of action, more big beasts who are probably going to get beasted by another big beast next week. I think we all know what beast is coming, and that's exciting. I don't buy into some of the chat that this season needs redeeming, but I do think this was a season elevating episode. I think there's a real chance now to go out on a very big high. And this was a great penultimate episode for what has been, in my opinion, I know for many, a quite hit and miss season so far. But for me, the misses have been really enjoyable. I'm comparing this to the last 2 seasons, which for me have been phenomenal. So yeah, this was the weakest season so far, but what we just had, in my opinion, was certainly an elevating, potentially season elevating episode. So let's see how they close it out next week. And I will say as well that I think for the first time now since the first episode of this season, I am for the first time actually counting down the days to the next episode, the finale. Can you believe we're at that stage already? So there's a few of my thoughts. I'll give a score a little bit later. Let me just go back to the chat and see what people are saying. All right, everybody. Marco, I haven't seen you for a while, my friend. Hope you're doing good. Rolling with the big dogs. That's right. No, he wasn't there. Somebody said not somebody there. Somebody said away from Celebration. In fact, I read it online somewhere. I think that maybe Mark Hamill's not doing signings anymore, but he wasn't there, so I couldn't. But one day, maybe, if he is still doing them, you never know. Gaz Nottingham, this is off topic, but we'll read it anyway. When Rey was announced at the end of Lucasfilm panel Celebration, the room went absolutely crazy. So happy that Daisy got the love she deserves. Not gonna lie, it was pretty emotional in that room. Chris and Jane, on the other hand, were getting pretty emotional when I was popping up on the stream, it seems. Yeah, I was popping up with my my little field reports, going around I was getting I had the highest step counts at the end of the day, put it that way, out of the hosts and me and my team, because of course there was many of us to bring that footage to your eyes. Right, we all had the highest step count on the field report team, let me tell you. All right, let's try and find some episode relevant comments, because I will do something on Celebration next week when my voice is returned, my brain is returned, which doesn't take much, to be honest. Right, Ant says the episode was good. Pretty much has gone the way what it has been setting up for a while now. Lots of cool details, but I felt nothing too majorly groundbreaking. Still really enjoyed it. Gaz kept quiet about Gaz did see this episode early and kept quiet about it. Spoilers are harsh, I agree. Although I should have probably put a spoiler warning at the start of this. But hey, I think it's self-explanatory now. David says, I heard good things about this episode, but I tempered my expectations and really liked it. Yeah, I mean, I did really like this episode, but I still came out feeling a little bit disappointed. And that's my fault for falling into the trap of jumping aboard the hype train for those who'd seen it early. Yeah, and I also remember I went to wasn't the premiere, because the premiere for Last Jedi wasn't in the world premiere, wasn't in London. I think it was LA, but I went to one of the premieres for The Last Jedi. I think it was actually just the media premiere, the press screening, and because I was doing a press junket round of interviews with Ryan Johnson and some of the cast. And we went to the screening the night before, and it wasn't as sometimes with movies, there's like a number of press screenings you can get invited to, and some of them are actually in really small screens, maybe in, say, Warner Brothers' offices or something. They're not always in theaters, but this was in one of the big ones in Leicester Square. And Ryan Johnson came out before to introduce the film. BB-8 came on stage, and I had a kind of premiere feeling to it. There was a show around the show. And when you go to these press screenings, it's often pretty dry, to be honest. But everyone was a fan in the room, some of in Europe anyway, some of the main kind of movie journalists and me, and people were going crazy, and that I remember when the movie ended, not quite being able to process it. Like, did I love that? Oh, I never thought I hated it, but I came out feeling a bit confused. But it took me another screen or two before I decided, yeah, no, I really like this movie. Sorry, guys. But what I'm saying is, when I started to hear the backlash, it kind of confused me to understand that for this movie based on the atmosphere in that room. And then I started to think, oh, maybe actually I didn't like it. It was just because of the atmosphere in the room. That's what made me think. That's what gave me a buzz as I left, and I felt like I was part of an event. But yeah, I did a couple more viewings and confirmed that I did like the movie. But yeah, that kind of atmosphere can definitely, you know, play a part in forming your initial opinion on something. Anyway, where are we? I'm rambling. Brian. 23 was definitely a fantastic episode. Helped restore my faith after a kind of shaky season, in my view, at least. No, I think a lot of people would agree with you there, Brian. Brian hadn't heard anything, so went in totally blind with low expectations, which may have helped me love it more. Caleb says, okay, I thought I'd hate IG-12 Grogu at first, but it ended up giving me some of the biggest laughs of the whole show. Yeah, I think I didn't really like the humor of chapter 22. And I think this had some of that, that classic Mandalorian Grogu humor back that we've had in season 1 and 2, like I mentioned earlier. So I think some of the best laughs of the entire season so far, for sure. And it didn't get annoying. I thought it might, and it might still, but it didn't. Hasn't yet. And thinks he needs to watch this episode again to process all the details. I definitely do, because like I mentioned, I slept. And then rewatched, but wasn't quite all there. Jane Flake says 23 was great. Grogu in IG-12 really made the scene. Glenn loved the yes, no's. David definitely loved the yeses. Yes, 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 yes. So we need. So we need. I also love it every time Grieve says Mando, and I think we had a great one in this episode. Yeah, extra point just for the classic Mando from the voice of Carl Weathers. We need a montage of that. Grogu is growing up. He is. No pizza. I will not read that hashtag. We've been through this before. Glenn makes a good point. So we now know that Grogu can read. Otherwise, how did the little fella know which button was yes or no? We're assuming the buttons are labeled, right? And in which language? Chris says, in regards to chapter 23, I thought it was really solid Star Wars. Lots of things coming together. And that's the kind of like, it's bittersweet, isn't it? Because lots of things coming together, and you're like, oh, but there's only one chapter left. But of course, this is going further, and we're not talking just about the Mandalorian series either. Are we now with this Mandoverse, Filoniverse? I kind of thought it was him for a while, but didn't know for sure. Until he got a close up later, and he's got quite distinct features. I'm gonna drop him an email, and because I actually did an interview with him for the channel, obviously Breaking Bad related, and El Camino, during the pandemic, during one of the lockdowns, and then I sort of changed the channel to Star Wars only, and never really did anything with it. Feel quite bad about that, but I'm sure he won't have noticed and won't care. But it was a great chat. We chatted for about an hour, so I might, and we did talk about Star Wars as well in terms of him just being a fan. So I can definitely put that out now, that bit for this channel. But maybe, I'm going to drop him an email. See, did his character die? Can anybody let me know? Are we going to see him again next week? If so, I'll wait until the season's finished and then drop him an email if he's still in it. Right, anyway, Matthew Stokes says, I enjoyed the latest episode. They've got to balance exposition for people that aren't familiar with the history and fitting good stuff for hardcore fans. And that's a difficult balance. Maybe that's what's causing pacing complaints. Yeah, good point there, Mr. Matthew Stokes. And that is a very tricky balance as well. Well, Brad says the yes over and over made me reflect on my own children's sense of humor. This is why I connect with this show. Yeah, I didn't say this, but I certainly agree with it. The Mandalorian is an example of how fun Star Wars can be, whilst Andor is an example of how good Star Wars can be, in terms of quality writing. Yeah, The Mandalorian is just good fun. And I know the Andor style of Star Wars wasn't for everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can't deny that Mando is, no matter what you think about this episode, even chapter 22, it was fun. It was fun. I did not hate that episode. And I know there's things about viewership being down potentially with this season at the moment, but you've got to say it's the one Disney Plus series. I suppose there hasn't been too many, but I don't know if you can say this. You can probably say this about the sequels, but anyway, it's one that has brought in casual fans, non-fans, and appealed to them, and a lot of that is thanks to little Grogu. But the movies have an advantage, especially the sequel trilogy, because they were one of the biggest events in cinema history, so they were always going to attract an extended audience. The Mandalorian, unless you're a pretty hardcore Star Wars fan, you probably wouldn't have known what a Mandalorian was. Yet it still managed to, again, thanks to Baby Yoda at the time, bring in a fairly casual audience, And I knew people who hadn't even seen a Star Wars movie that got intrigued by The Mandalorian, thanks to who, and got hooked, but never even went off to watch the movies. They just enjoyed The Mandalorian for what it was. Anyway, another tangent. Din is always getting rescued. Does seem like that at the moment. He used to be the one who did the rescuing, I feel like. Caleb says, with Gideon back too, they're raising our expectations too high for seeing BB actors. Oh, Ant, is that right, Ant? The armorer took Skinny Pete. Oh, was he one of the injured ones? The sick ones on a road trip. Okay, so we're going to... Is the armor up to no good? Oh, the Praetorian Guards are formidable. Yeah. And of course, they're from The Last Jedi, aren't they? And they were cool. They were cool in The Last Jedi. I did like that scene. Peter says, for a moment, it was Maul before the helmet came off. Yeah, with the spikes. Excuse me. Good question. Is the armorer a bad guy or a good guy? Well, we know Chad had his theory, which he talked about a few weeks ago. I haven't listened to his latest podcast episode. It'll be interesting to see what he's saying now, because there's definitely more than a suggestion that the armorer might be a bad guy. Because do we even know who the spies are? This chapter's titled The Spies, but I came out of it not really knowing who were the spies. I mean, we did see a spy at the start, Moff Gideon's spy. I've forgotten her name again, but the female Imperial officer from Gideon's ship in season 2, who's now with the New Republic and was heavily involved in the Pershing episode. Sorry, I've forgotten her name, but we see her on the really cool Blade Runner type Coruscant underworld, I assume. At the start of the episode, she is a spy, but is only briefly in at the beginning, so I don't think the whole chapter would be named after her. But then it's spies plural, isn't it? So she's one spy. Who's the other? Others. Rick is doing both episodes. Cool. So I don't know if we've had that in terms of back-to-back episodes, but clearly it's a two-parter anyway in terms of the finale arc. Daniel Spartan also confirming that Skinny Pete has gone back to the ship. Didn't they used to call the RV the Crystal Ship? They called something the Crystal Ship in Breaking Bad. Anyway, that's right, Ant. That's right. And Ant also smells an armored rat. The armorer is up to no good. Jane Flake says the episode has to follow a certain direction, though, so because of that, it has to be a little predictable. Well, let's see where it goes next. Powerjoy Girl says, I liked lots of elements, the Easter eggs and references. Gillard Ballion looked exactly as I imagined him. Fantastic, but I found the story formulaic and predictable. I really enjoyed that Shadow Council scene. What else? The Book of Dr. Pershing. Are we going to see Pershing again? I guess we don't need to now, do we? And I assume he doesn't have any memory, right? Paz's weapon was overheating like they do in Battlefront. Caleb Caleb's mentioned that he's just saw someone point out the similarity in shape between Gideon's new helmet and the Armorer's. It's great to have Moff Gideon back. Gus Gideon. What else? Yes, Paz did leave behind a son, of course. Yeah, it's sad. But I just didn't feel that death as much as I thought I might. And I do like the character. It's not I just don't care about the character. I just didn't really feel it. Whether it was the way it was shot, executed, so to speak, or the fact it was just a bit predictable. I don't know. But I did love this episode. Let's get some scores in. There's a lot of comments still. This is not going to be a 30. Oh, we're over 30 minutes already. So it's already not a 30-minute episode. This is what happens when I'm catching up with sleep and recovering from probably the worst jet lag I've ever had. But I do think that was partly because of the celebration and the adrenaline and all that kind of stuff. Because usually I don't really get jet lag. And people were saying, "Oh, you're going straight into this job after like an 11-hour flight and being very much used to a different time zone." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't get jet lag, so it's all good, baby." Jet lag punished me for my smugness, it turns out. Anyway, this is what happens when I'm in need of sleep. I ramble and we do longer streams. I'm sorry, everybody. This is definitely happening. I mean, I don't know that, but I just feel like it's definitely happening. Powder Girl says, "I just hope that Boba Fett doesn't fly in to save the day," which he will. Will. I think will. I think that's happening. Yeah, Daniel Spartan reminding us that it is spies, plural. Kane is one, and Daniel's guess is the Armorer is the other. Daniel, I still need to read the email in full about Chad's theory, which seems to be, having a lot more weight behind it now, doesn't it? What else? Simon Farrell, hope you're doing well, mate. Haven't heard from you in a while. Absolutely loved it. It was a return to form after the Lizzo. I know there's people that enjoyed that episode, and I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't hate it, but it's definitely got my lowest score of the season. I'm giving that a 6, by the way. If you weren't here earlier, I didn't do a review for that. Not out of like protest or anything. I was traveling. But it was a weird episode, and I like weird, but it wasn't the best kind of weird, in my opinion. All right, Jane Flakes, let's see what you've got to say for yourself. One thing that worries me is that they will do to Ahsoka just what they did to Boba Fett and turn it into an extended Mando series. Hey, it's possible, but don't worry. I mean, saying that, there was nothing in that trailer that suggested that to me. But then again, they tend to only really show clips from the first episode or two with these trailers, don't they? So who knows? Is this a celebration question, Glenn? If it is, I'll give you a quick answer, but I will do a celebration video next week. Not very much. I mean, it's all scheduled. So in terms of going around doing the field reports, all the interviews have been organized in advance by Kyle, who's one of the producers, and he works for Lucasfilm, and lovely guy. And yeah, he's got a schedule, but of course with this kind of thing, it's quite hard to keep the schedule. But we hit all of our interviews. Some we were late to, but we got them all done. I don't think all aired because it's kind of impossible, but good chunk of them did, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so in terms of what we're talking about, we can't plan that much because you kind of get to the booth. Sometimes you know what they're about, but sometimes you don't. It's like, for me anyway, a brand I've never heard of. There's not much time to do research, but equally, if you do research, you're turning up there and actually they're focusing on something completely different at the booth. So maybe a celebration exclusive or early reveal that they've delivered at celebration. So you really just turn up, have a quick chat with them, and that's it. You just do it. You just go with it. And the trick with this is to try not to overdo it. We were aiming to record kind of 3 to 4 minutes maximum normally. And you've got to really respect the editor. It's such an important role and can be quite a difficult role. And they've got a lot of stuff coming in that they've got to turn around very quickly. So you really want to try and make it as easy for the editor as possible as well by not over asking questions and, talking too much yourself. Let the guests say what needs to be said, etc. And yeah, I think in the past I've probably been guilty of giving editors a hard time in terms of having to go through a load of ramble like you guys have had to over the last 35 minutes. But yeah, since editing my own videos, I kind of now do things with two hats on. One being an interviewer, because that's what I've kind of always done in terms of broadcasting. But secondly, yeah, thinking like an editor as well, and how I can make this easier in the edit. I've seen something from Brad there. I've got a visual prop for your question. Can't wait to ask you next week if you actually were gifted the shirts and socks that your interviewers offered to you. Doug Chang never offered me a car, which was very disappointing, but I did get a pair of socks, baby. Oh, yeah, from Stans. And I have to say, and I'm not even in sales mode anymore, the quality is pretty impressive, but maybe that's because I usually buy socks from Primark. Anyway, no more celebration. We'll talk next week on celebration. But if you do have questions for it, send me a message, not in the live chat in case I missed them. Send me a message for them, email. I've logged back into Twitter, so it can be Twitter, Discord, and I'll cover them in a pre-recorded video next week. But we will do a live stream for the final episode of what's it called? Mandalorian, that's the one. Right, everybody, where are we? Daniel Spartan says, don't trust the Mandos who are on the planet, armor and skinny pea going to get to work. Maybe it's Badger under that helmet. Maybe it's not Emily Swan. It's the actor who played Badger. Yeah, I'm intrigued by that for next week. I agree that a lot of elements of this episode were pretty predictable, but there's still a bit of mystery and uncertainty out there. So, yeah, I think there could be some surprises next week, which is exciting. Jane Flakes loved Ryan's movie, The Last Jedi, in case anybody's wondering. It's a good question. Why did Grogu not go all force unleashed when Din got captured? I felt like he was going to for a moment. A little look in his face, but he's got next week for that. Peter, not sure about Ryan's movie. Don't think it's bad, but it just not fits. Interesting from an acting point of view, but story-wise, not so much. Gaz Nottingham. Sorry, I'm very slow tonight, guys, by the way. Hopefully this energy... Also, maybe it's because I've been doing the streams previously in the daytime, right? In Mexico City. I haven't done one in the evening for a while, so I'm in kind of like nighttime, chill mode, which might be fine for my friends in Europe. But I hope I'm not like ruining your day over in the States or elsewhere in the world. God, Jamie, we're looking for a bit of energy, mate. Yeah, you're putting us all down. Anyway, Gaz Nottingham, related to The Mandalorian, Dave Filoni will be directing a movie that will combine and conclude the Mando series as well as the Ahsoka series and Skeleton Crew. Awesome news. Yeah, that was revealed at Celebration. Gaz was actually in the panel. And I will say this next week, because it's the truth. I absolutely loved my Celebration experience. It's a very unique experience, of course, and wouldn't change it for the world. And I don't know if I'll be asked to do it again. But if I was, give me some chance to have some sleep, because right now I'm like, oh, I'm tired. But I of course I would. However, you do miss out on what's actually happening at, the whole point of the convention, if you like, the event is for these announcements in terms of, I guess, the news, the takeaways. I was finding myself after day one, like at 11 p.m. when I finally got back to the hotel room, like Googling what had happened at the event I've been working on, because it's so big, and it's quite easy to not get caught up in other things, I suppose, and not really know what's going on elsewhere. So all of this kind of stuff like Gaz is talking about, I didn't find out at the time. And even being backstage, people don't know what's going to be announced. A lot of Lucasfilm staff don't know what's going to be announced. They're reacting it. They're keeping an eye on the panel so they can react to it afterwards, for the social media feeds, etc. It's interesting, I think, anyway. So that's cool. Right. Have I gone back? I don't know. I'm really confused with the comments. I might have gone back instead of forward. 8:59 p.m. Oh, Chad's going to be furious with me. We've done 40 minutes, man. So if you're wondering why I'm going on about time, we normally try and do 30 minutes. We've been really good this season of Mando until now, until the night streams return. I don't think I said. I did say it in the stream, but I've heard that somewhere, and it's something I agreed with. But I can't give direct credit to whoever said it because I don't know where I heard it. But maybe I didn't hear it. I'll take it. I'll take it. It's mine. Thanks, Brad. Right. Daniel Spartan, how can the Mandos on the planet say they stayed in the Forge and not notice the Imperials defo spies? Yep, interesting. Right, get your scores in, everybody. I'm going to give this episode a strong 8.5, which means...
How was it?
Wizard.
I hope the sound worked. I didn't hear any sound there, but it's all about the sound. And thank you to David Milano, who made those years ago, and I've still got them. Right, okay. I can see some other scores coming in. I think this is the first one, 8.7 from Glenn, the Geeky Hippie. We got an 8 from David. We got a 7.7 from Caleb. We got an 8.4 from Daniel. We got a 9 from Chris from Explaining Computers. We got an 8.88 from Mr. Matthew Stokes. We got a 10 out of 12 from Jane Flakes, which is a good Imperial score. We got Peter's very low score for episode 22. Very low. But also a pretty high score from Peter anyway for episode 23, 7 out of 10. Power to a Go gives this episode a 6. I may look more favorably on it once I see part 2 next week. Yeah, for my rewatch, I'm probably going to wait now until after the finale and maybe go back and just do a season binge. It was a good running time, though, wasn't it? This episode it was about 50 minutes. I think that's probably including the credits, but still. We've had some very short and very long. Long for Mando, anyway. Clays, chapter 22, 6 out of 10. Chapter 23, 7.5 out of 10. Andrew, hope you're doing well, my friend. Andrew Kapish says, I think the episode title, The Spies, is mostly referring to Bo-Katan's scouting party. Yeah. It's possible. We're going to find out next week a lot. Yeah, some of these things that we think are pointless, hopefully next week we'll be like, got it. All right. Well, there we go. Another interesting contribution from Andrew there. This could be a biblical reference to the 12 spies from the 12 tribes of Israel Moses sent to survey Canaan, the promised land. All right. Again, we'll find out next week. And also from Andrew, the Mandalorian volunteers from different tribes are uniting to survey Mandalore, their promised land. That it is. But again, like why they didn't know about the Imperial presence is a little bit suspicious, isn't it? Right. The absolute highlight of the episode was the line, "Bad baby, not squeezy." Yeah, that was fun. On Navarro, wasn't it? Socks do make it all the more worthwhile, especially Star Wars socks. Socks get a bad rep as that disappointing Christmas present, but they're important. They're important. Right. Brad's wife, who is generally right about everything, that's what he says there, thought straight off that the plural spies were the surface dwellers on Mandalore. Yeah, Anzelians, Babu Fricks species. Right, everybody. I think I can see some more scores. Seven out of 10 from Ant. And the sound works. Thank you very much, David. Thank you for confirming. Andrej is here. Andrej, hope you're doing well. 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10. That is the lowest score for this chapter. We had a 0 for the last chapter. 2 out of 10 from Andrej because it's taking good things out of the EU and turning them to corrupt sequel trilogy. Yeah, well, I don't think the sequel trilogy was crap, but I have no problem with you thinking that Andrej. And hey, maybe when all is said and done, I don't know, maybe you'll see the sequels in a different way or not. Either way, it doesn't matter, my friend, because Andrej is a good guy. He's been with the channel for a long time and does not take his dislike for the sequels into a place of toxicity. So it's all good. It's fine not to like something. Gaz, Nottingham. Gaz, I thought I did your scores, but obviously I didn't. Chapter 22, 6.95 out of 10. Chapter 23, 9.95 out of 10. The live experience. Gaz was in the live screening of it, the early live preview screening of it at Celebration. It deserves the score you give it. It deserves the score you give it. But it would be interesting to see if you felt differently watching it back again without that special, unique environment. But hey, I've got a feeling you'd still score it very highly. All right, I think I'm pretty much done with the comments. Jane Flake says a season binge makes the whole lot flow better and makes the gaps between episodes more understandable. And also that we can at least look forward to at least a 50-minute final episode. Yeah, I think we're going to have another long one. I feel there's been a few now that in this season that have been very short, very, very short, but also very, very long. The Dr. Pershing one was probably the longest, right? And the Bad Batch finale, which I need to watch. It's been spoiled for me, so don't worry, everybody. Thanks. But I do need to watch the final 2 episodes now that I'm back in the normality. And I'm going to be recording a final chat about that, a final chat batch as well next week. Wow, maybe over an hour. I'm here for that. Yeah, and then I've got to do a longer final stream, right? I mean, it's going to be another night stream. Maybe it's just the way night streams are. Maybe I can't do a short night stream. I've not got it in me, but I'll definitely have a bit more energy next week, I hope. And we'll have... See, I think I've only just got over the jet lag because I'm now sleeping when I need to sleep. So now I think I'm in like getting over Celebration, sort of 15-hour, pretty long days, intense days. I think now I'm recovering from that. But I'm feeling pretty chill. I'm not stoned, by the way. I don't know if people think I'm stoned. Not really a smoker. Right. Liam says, Liam Robertson, hope you're doing well, mate. You are very late. You are very, very late. But as the famous saying goes, Liam Robertson is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. Name that film, people. Right, Liam says, I'm very late, but great seeing you at Celebration. Jamie, congrats on the gig. Thanks, man. Thank you very much. I'm going to do a video about it next week, just for anybody that's interested in like the behind the scenes things going on. Obviously, my role in particular, I can speak about, and general observations back there and things. But yeah, overall, really special. Might be a once. I've done events like this before, and I guess on paper, bigger events like Olympics and Glastonbury's and things like that. But when I'm not a big Olympics fan, so even though I get the kind of magnitude of it, I don't really feel it. But when you're a Star Wars fan, and this is like the big Star Wars event, aside from a release of an actual Star Wars, yeah, it's really special, and you can't really describe that. So on one hand, you can say it's a job, it's another job, because I do things like this professionally. On the other hand, it's absolutely not a job, and that was the overall kind of vibe I got from everybody working there. Nobody was really working, even though it was hard work. Nobody felt like they were coming to work. So that's, yeah, I'll talk more about it next week, but I will never ever not that I ever have before, but I'll never entertain that line that you often see, that Lucasfilm hates the fans, doesn't care about the fans. This is not my first experience of working with Lucasfilm, and it's my biggest experience of working with them, and it's absolutely reinforced the opposite, in my opinion. Not that I ever believed any of that anyway, but yeah, there's things I've seen I'll talk about next week that have It's very special. Anyway, I'm sorry, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, which is pretty much how I got through the whole celebration, to be honest. Right, Lord of the Rings is correct, David. You're right, but of course it wasn't Liam Robertson. It was Gandalf, and to be more precise, the Fellowship of the Ring. Yes, and Hobbit 4. Yeah, technically, I suppose, in a way. Right. Was he over a week late? Okay, that's just not acceptable, wizard or not, to be honest. All right, everybody. Daniel Spartan says, pretty sure we've gone longer this stream than the episode for the second time this season. Yeah, but I think the last time was when it was that really short episode, right? I think it definitely wasn't the Dr. Pershing one. We never beat that, did we? That was the marathon episode. We got a final score here from Brad. 9 out of 10 for the ep. 10 out of 10 for the possibly longer stream than the actual ep. I like the Geeknd in the evening, and it's not the evening for Brad over in Texas. So I'm glad I'm contributing. We're contributing together, everybody, to your day out there, Brad. Yeah, I'm further away from you now, geographically and in terms of time travel. Right, everybody. I think that's it. I've caught up with the I had, and then Glenn chipped in again. Glenn says, can I just state, I love this chat and channel, and Jamie, of course. Always able to stay friendly and cheerful with each other, even when disagreeing. I know, man. And Frogger's not even been here tonight, has he? Fandom suffers too much of that, needs more. You know what? And Glenn, you're so right. And that's something I'll say next week as well. I didn't have any Star Wars negativity, but Celebration is definitely not right now. It's definitely destroyed me right now. But in my mind, it's definitely reinvigorated me. Yeah, generally in terms of Star Wars and for this channel too. So seeing some of the things I saw out there. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The fandom suffers a lot online. And when you see real world things like Celebration, you realize that it's an angry bubble out there, you know, and it just needs bursting every now and again. And that can be logging out of Twitter like I did. Definitely had a far more enjoyable 6 months. I'm back on it now, but it's partly because of Celebration and stuff, but I'm going to give it another go because I do feel quite invigorated. Well, I will do anyway after a bit more sleep. So yeah, Glenn, you're absolutely right. Thank you. And yeah, and this, I'm glad you like me as well, but this channel isn't me. That's why I took my name out of it. You know, it's a thing, right? It's a family. All right. I think that's it. So thank you everybody for joining. We'll be back next week. Let's start at the same time again. So it's 8:30 p.m. UK time, which is currently BST. And let's see how long we go for. I won't make any promises, especially after tonight. So, yeah, this is the unhinged long stream. I genuinely don't know what I'm saying right now. And I genuinely was going for a lot of celebration like that as well. But that's live broadcasting, baby. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And I'm not wearing a robe, by the way. I don't know if people are wearing a robe. I'm not. I'm going to go. I'm going to leave you all to it. I think I've taken up enough of your time. So, yeah, the waving starts, everybody. Chris is waving. Andrej is waving. And David is waving. And Jane Flakes is doing a lot of waving right there, as you can see there. So thank you, everybody who's joined us tonight. And there's been some names, faces I've not seen for a while. So it's great to always see you guys, to know that you're doing well. Yeah, don't forget to hit that like button. And I'm going to start waving now because I've just clicked end broadcast, which means the awkward lag has started and will soon be ending. But you got to keep waving until it does end. All right, keep waving. And Dave Milano, I can see you there. I don't know if I said hello earlier, but hello, goodbye.